Welcome to Everything Pro Wrestling. Everything Pro Wrestling is a show by the fans, for the fans. And here's your host, Conrad Cushman.
You're listening to Brainbusta Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 56 of Everything Pro Wrestling. Everything Pro Wrestling is a show by the fans, for the fans. And I am your host, Conrad Cushman, and we have a jam-packed episode for you guys today. Now, do me a favor, if you guys are listening to this podcast and you haven't already, make sure you click the subscribe button. It doesn't matter what platform you're listening to it on. Just click subscribe and you guys will always get notifications when I upload a podcast, and it's greatly appreciated. Now, let's start talking about some of this craziness that is going on in the world of wrestling today. First and foremost, the number one thing that I want to talk about right now is Monday Night Raw. Now, if you guys stick around for this episode, I will have a Retro Raw review happening that took place on the day I'm recording this, May 1st in the year 2000. But before we get into that, you're probably wondering, well, why are you doing a retro review of a Monday Night Raw in this episode of the podcast? I do Monday Night Raw reviews every week on YouTube, and it was a chore to sit through Monday Night Raw this week. I was watching it with Derek, one of my good friends, and it was a chore to get through this Monday Night Raw. Now, Derek's my best friend, and we've watched wrestling for years together, and he was struggling to make it through this episode. Like, it was that bad. It's not that the wrestling's not good. There's no substance to it. There's nothing that makes you want to come back for more or stick to the product. It just, I don't know, it's bleh. And it's just felt like that for quite some time. So Monday Night Raw this week was in Lexington, Kentucky. They were at the Rupp Arena, and the show averaged 2.158 million viewers. Now that's down from the previous week, which had 2.374. And I know the ratings don't mean as much as they used to. People have different viewing patterns. But let me say this. People tuning out, there's something to this still, though. This is just saying that the product isn't as good. That's how I'm feeling about it, at least. So let's look at this. There seems to be a trend constantly since they've went to this 3-hour format. Hour 1 starts off the best. Hour 2 loses a little. Hour 3, damn. So right now, guys, Hour 1 had 2.336 million viewers. We transitioned into Hour 2. We're at 2.241 million. And Hour 3 is at 1.898. This episode finished 5th in the night of total viewers on cable. WWE did have to go up against 2 NBA playoff games. I'm pretty sure that probably affected it too. But you're doing a hype for Money in the Bank, one of your biggest pay-per-views, and you draw some of the lowest ratings? The lowest ratings. You had a 2.3 in Hour 1 and then a 2.2 in Hour 2. And I don't even know how we could sum up that 1.8. Like, what is the best way to describe what that 1.8 means? Damn. Yeah, that about sums it up. That horn was, yeah, that's Monday Night Raw. So we look at Monday Night Raw's ratings and they're down, they're out, which is going to lead me to doing this retro review. And we're going to get into that in 1 second. Now, before I'm gathering all the data for this show, and I come across a new article that popped up on SEScoops.com. And we have WWE SmackDown Live draws the lowest viewership of 2019. SmackDown Live averaged 1.8 million viewers, which is down from the 2.0 it had last week. this is rough stuff, man. I think the WWE has been struggling to keep viewers invested in their product. I'm not saying that they're bad. I'm just saying that there's no reason to be excited for what's happening on WWE television right now. I'm looking at the clock like, oh, will this show be over so I can get my review done and I can get to bed, or I can go do this or I can go do that. You want to do anything but watch this show. And I find it weird that people are on their phones at the shows, tweeting, not making any noise. The crowd is not lively. But all that is going to lead into what we have coming up next, which is a retro review of a Monday Night Raw that took place after Backlash. The date of the show is May 1st, year 2000. We're going to talk about it, kind of go over it quickly because we have lots of other wrestling news to go over. We have to figure out how somebody got their Moxley back, we'll say. We got some interesting things to talk about in the world of wrestling. We'll be right back, and let's get ready to get into that retro review after a word from our good friends, Revisionist Booking.
Have you ever wanted to book your own wrestling pay-per-view? If the answer is yes, boy, do I have a podcast for you. The Revisionist Booking. Every Wednesday, Michael Berry Sr. and RJ revise and rebook a pay-per-view from wrestling's past, whether it be WCW, ECW, or even WWE. They revise it, rebook it in a way that they think would be better for that specific time. Follow them on Twitter at RevisionistBook, at Michael Berry Sr., and at Krasinski RJ. Do you have what it takes to style and profile with Revisionist Booking? Make sure you tune in every week. And as always, you're welcome. And let the Revisionist Revolution begin.
It's May 1st. The year is 2000. I am 13 years old. I've got long rock sideburns, and I feel pretty weird about everything going on in life because I'm starting to think about high school. Wrestling is still one of my favorite things in the world happening. I'm talking to my friends. It's just life is completely different for me back then. You're not thinking about work, having a job. Everything's different. And at this time, I'm actually trying to figure out how to pull my grades up. It was around this point to where I started having confidence in myself as far as becoming a better student, but I still cared about wrestling. And on this night, the WWE happened to be traveling to Baltimore, Maryland. Shout out to my good friend Kyron Chase. Hopefully you are listening to this, my friend. The Baltimore Ravens were in the house. As you can see them ringside when they actually had sports teams wanting to go to these events, and they would appear on camera and love it, and sometimes even get involved. Monday Night Raw for this show opens up with Pyro. Man, when's the last time we saw that in the future, huh? So we get all of this stuff showing what's happening after Backlash, basically. Backlash was the pay-per-view the night before. That's when you have the craziest pop in history when Stone Cold Steve Austin comes out to make the save during the Rock Triple H match, and Stone Cold's waffling anybody he can with that steel chair because he is injured. What an amazing... That's one of the loudest pops I think I've ever heard if you guys have never watched that show. But this is the night after. So we start off with Edge and Christian's music hitting. They are on their way out. No 20-minute long diatribe. And they had that even back then during this era, but I was surprised not to see it on this episode to start. Edge and Christian make their way over to the commentary table with JR and the King, and they are out here to do commentary for the next match. Stuff we still see today. We have the Dudley Boys versus Test and Albert, and their tag name was TNA, and they were managed by Trish. But you may be asking, well, where was Trish Stratus during this? Trish Stratus stirred up so much stuff, and she was one of the only females not to get put through a table by the Dudley Boys. She would kiss Bubba Ray. She would try to get into Bubba Ray's head. And eventually it looked like it was working until at Backlash, where Bubba Ray held Trish by her hair after she kissed him. And Bubba Ray finally put her through a table. And Trish was not here because she was selling injuries. And that's something I can appreciate. So Trish got put through a table. Now, Edge and Christian are on commentary, and they're actually funny for the times. They are using what they call insider lingo with the King, talking about shooting from the hip and just stupid stuff like that, like words like going over and doing a run-in. They're just saying stupid stuff. And they issue an open challenge for later on the show. Anybody who wants to challenge them for the tag team titles are more than welcome to. And it sounds like Jim Ross is leading them to saying maybe it could be any team that you haven't beaten already, right? And Edge says, yeah, basically, because they've beaten everybody and they want competition. I get it. Cool. So in this match, the Dudley Boys end up hitting the 3D on Test. Albert is down from a neck breaker, and he had rolled out, and he's just starting to recover during this time period. Test eats the 3D, and they have the pinfall, but Edge and Christian said right before they're going to go do a run-in. Edge is up on the apron, distracting the referee. Christian grabs Devon and hits him with the unprettier. For you younger fans, that's the kill switch. And they end up putting Test on top of Devon. The ref turns around. 1, 2, 3. TNA defeat the Dudley Boys in this match. Fun match. It was short, quick, and to the point. But these matches led to stuff in storyline. So Edge and Christian did that, and they move on. We'll see them back later on in the show. Next, this is the era of the McMahon-Helmsley regime. Now, some things I started picking up during the show. I noticed Jim Ross and the King had amazing chemistry together. These guys knew what the other one was going to say before. They could have great back and forth banter, and it wasn't too much. I like the 2-man booth better than the 3-man booth. Now, we have Vince, Stephanie, and Triple H. These guys are hated throughout this. Vince and Triple H are sharing boos and chants of asshole. So that is constant throughout this. And it feels like, from what I remember, they tried to dumb it down a little bit so that it wasn't as loud, because those chants used to get really loud back in the day. But maybe I'm wrong and the crowd just wasn't into it as much as I thought during this night, at least. Now, Stephanie, she gets some pretty bad chants too, calling her, it rhymes with what but begins with an S. I'm not going to say it. Crazy. The Rock, the People's Champ, any mention of his name, The Rock is flipping over during this time. The people love The Rock, one of the biggest stars, and you know, it makes sense now if you look into the future with how well The Rock's doing in Hollywood. The dude was great in pro wrestling. So Triple H then gets on the microphone and he complains about Stone Cold Steve Austin interfering in his match at Backlash. And he says that he knows The Rock has got to be eating him alive, knowing he couldn't beat him by himself for the WWF Championship, even though the heel Triple H had everything in his favor, from Stooges to everybody being on his side. Like I said, Stephanie gets slut chants thrown at her. Yeah, I should have just said it before. She gets slut chants thrown at her. You could blame that on Chris Jericho. And she is the current World Wrestling Federation Women's Champion at the time. Think of that. And Vince teases why there's a cage above the ring, and it's going to involve The Rock in a historic match tonight. So that leads to speculation. They're like, oh, what's going to happen in the show? Stuff we don't get anymore. There's no like speculation, or how would you put that together? You know what I mean? Like, that could lead you to think there's some excitement, but we knew back then even, like, okay, it can't be something that great. He's got to be defending the title in some type of cage match, but against who or what, why, and how. But it's still cool that they had teasers like that, because we don't get stuff like that anymore. Next, we get Crash Holly being attacked in the parking lot by an attendant back there because his hardcore title's on the line 24/7. And it was just a great way to illustrate that anything can happen at any time. Crash Holly ends up putting the parking lot attendant in the trunk of the car as he runs into the building to try and hide from everybody because he is the hardcore champion. Next match, we have Hardys versus Too Cool, a basic fun tag team match. Brian Christopher had just returned from knee surgery, and Too Cool end up getting the victory. And I remember during the 2000s, Too Cool was over. Like, people loved them. I think this is when they're at their peak. They're moonwalking, they're dancing. People just loved them with Rikishi. So during this time, Too Cool gets the win. That surprised me a little bit against the Hardy Boys, but I think they were getting the push here. So kudos to Too Cool for winning. Next, we get Vince McMahon backstage. And this is when you get to see how awesome Vince McMahon was as a heel. He tells Briscoe and Patterson that he wants Earl Hebner here. And then, those idiots, Mr. McMahon, do you want him in a box? Do you want him on a silver platter? No, I just said bring him here. And Patterson and Briscoe are just bumbling fools when it comes to it. Segment cuts, and since it's on the network, we get right into Earl Hebner being right in front of Vince. And Vince blames Earl Hebner just being the classic Mr. McMahon heel. He called him a sniveling shit at one point during this. And he said, bad things happen to people who get in my business. Segment cuts away. We get to Jacqueline and the Cat versus Terry and Ivory. This was a cat fight. This made me appreciate women's wrestling today and how much further it's come. And here's the thing. Jacqueline and Ivory aren't bad at all in the ring. They can wrestle and go. They did a lot of the ring work for this. The Cat and Terry were there for the sex appeal. It got people hyped up. They were all into it. They wore their sexy outfits. And, you missed that too, being in wrestling. I'm not mad at it. But they were in there. They did their thing. And Cat ends up getting the pin on Terry. Okay match. Jacqueline and the Cat end up getting the victory. The women brawl. I just wish they were appreciated a little bit more for their talents back then. But we move on to the next segment. Vince McMahon is backstage now with Road Dogg and X-Pac. And they are back there talking, and he says that he has a special assignment for Road Dogg. What does that mean? Nobody really knows. And he wants X-Pac to fight for the honor of his daughter, Stephanie McMahon Helmsley, because of what Chris Jericho has said to her, calling her a trash bag, bottom-feeding hoe, which was Jericho's line back then. So this is basically about DX being a family tonight, and he said that they'll get a rematch at the Tag Team Champions later because the night before they felt screwed by Edge and Christian. So X-Pac comes out for his match with Tori, and this is Tori that was in DX, that fought Sable and everything else, not Tori Wilson. So X-Pac with Tori versus Chris Jericho. Jericho disses Stephanie McMahon once again, calling her a trash bag, bottom-feeding hoe, and in this match, Earl Hebner got tired of being pushed around throughout, and he calls for the DQ on DX. So this is further storytelling that Earl Hebner keeps getting in the McMahon's business, and he is the person who came out and got reinstated by Linda McMahon the night before on Backlash. So Earl Hebner's in big trouble, and this is also after when he gave Jericho the title win when he fast counted Triple H. Definitely something we'll have to go back and talk about another time. So then we see The Rock arriving to the arena. I used to hate this when they did this back in the day. Why in the hell would The Rock be arriving to the arena late? What? Like, shouldn't you be there from the beginning of the show? But Rock just showed up. He's got on like this cow vest and he's ready to go. So The Rock versus Shane McMahon for the WWF title is announced in a steel cage. But we all know the McMahon Helmsley regime, or whatever they're called, are going to stack the odds against The Rock tonight, just like they did at Backlash. So, match number 5, we have the WWF Tag Team titles. Edge and Christian had their open challenge. Well, who comes out to answer it but Rikishi and his tag team partner, Shokishi. What? Big Show comes out dressed up like Rikishi, ass hanging out of a thong. Just brutal to look at. I don't know what they were doing with him back then. He was doing so many stupid gimmicks and different things. I think he was being punished for something. So Edge ends up hitting Big Show with the ring bell to get a DQ. And as Edge and Christian go to retreat up the ramp, Here come X-Pac and Road Dogg to attack Edge and Christian and put them back in the ring. And after the match, Big Show and Rikishi hit a double stink face, and then they're in the ring dancing. I'm sure you guys have seen gifs of it on Twitter with Big Show dancing like a fool with Rikishi. Good stuff, though. And like I said, if you dance with Rikishi, you were getting a pop that night. It was guaranteed. You put on the yellow sunglasses, and you were like, oh, I could dance now. I'm feeling it, Big Rikishi. And it was good stuff, man. So just fun stuff when you're watching it and just reliving those moments. You miss that. I don't know. You just don't get that from pro wrestling anymore. Like, guys just aren't over by actions. Like, it didn't even hurt Rikishi to dance like this. And that was the thing he was most known for after his match. That and the stinky face. Like, come on, man. Easy. Triple H and Stephanie talk backstage about Shane McMahon possibly winning the title. And Triple H says he doesn't really see Vince's vision in Shane winning the belt and why he's doing this. And Stephanie says maybe he wants to find out who's the better man. And Triple H looks angry before they cut to a break. Can't we get the storyline today? Please? Please? Like, the storyline's written and it's right there. Triple H and Shane, you married my sister, now you're taking over my dad's company and it should have been mine. They could have something there with that. So we end up getting some more highlights of past events throughout this. And we get to match number 6. It is for the European title. That's right. The WWF European title. We have the champion, Eddie Guerrero, with his mamacita, China. This is Eddie Guerrero during his Latino heat period versus S.A. Rios and Lita. It used to be that S.A. Rios could come out and do all these high-flying moves, and Lita would, like, mock the move. So this is right when Lita's starting to show character, though, and Lita's branching out on her own. She's showing her potential. And she shows her potential in this match. So Lita comes out wearing Chyna's prom dress from the night before. Chyna had told Eddie she never had a real prom, and Eddie tried to cheer her up with getting her a prom dress and taking her out. He gets her flowers. They do all the stuff with the flower in the mouth. He gives it to Chyna. You guys know how it is. And he goes out there just being Latino heat. And he is amazing. S.A. Rios in this match, very underrated. I thought he did a damn good job of wrestling against Eddie Guerrero. The match wasn't perfect. I wish these two had more time to wrestle against each other. But S.A. Rios is on the main roster. He's one of the few light heavyweights that got to shine alongside like Taka Michinoku, Brian Christopher, and Scott Taylor. S.A. Rios was definitely one that people don't talk about enough. I know this is one of my brother's favorites. Shout out to you, Cam. And yeah, I thought S.A. Rios did fine with this. Latino Heat, Eddie Guerrero wins with like a spinning neck breaker in this match. And that's it. 1, 2, 3. Eddie picks up the win. While Lita is going to console her man, S.A. Rios, in the ring, Chyna comes in and wants her dress back. So she rips it off of Lita. And like I said, we got to see Lita's goods, her assets. And, you know, King's going crazy. Braun panties, brawn panties. And Chyna rips the dress off. Eddie is, you know, smiling at Chyna, you know, just showing like, oh, I really like her. And he's Latino heat, man. Good stuff. I enjoyed Eddie during this time, during his rise to the mid-card. So we get it. The next part we get to is backstage. Wrestlers are over by catering. Earl Hebner is going to grab a coffee. And Tori from DX comes by and she actually knocks Earl Hebner's cup of coffee over on him. He says, "That's hot coffee, Tori." And she said, "Oh, sorry, accidents happen." And this is all foreshadowing throughout the night. Earl Hebner is a big focal point of this show. A referee is the focal point of this show when they were like at their top doing great ratings. Weird, right? So we get an Intercontinental title match. We have Chris Benoit versus Taz. Taz comes out. He tells Benoit to get out here with that stupid sour puss on your face. And Taz says the mood is about to change. That was his gimmick back then. Yeah, whatever. I mean, Taz came in hot. I just really wish they did more with him. I think they missed a big opportunity to use Taz properly. So Chris Benoit versus Taz. The match starts off with some ECW chants. The people knew where these guys came from, and it showed ECW was over. And it was still running during this time. So very cool to see. Saturn enters into this match very early, like within the first couple minutes, and he distracts Taz. Benoit hits a fisherman's suplex from like catching his leg from a kick into a fisherman's suplex. 1, 2, 3. It looked like Taz tried to kick out, but he couldn't. And Chris Benoit picks up the win. And after the match, basically Taz goes to attack Saturn, but then here comes Bob Holly. Hardcore Holly is out there, and he starts beating on Benoit. He hits him with a Falcon Arrow, and then he goes to the outside and jumps off the apron and double clotheslines Taz and Saturn. So Bob Holly is trying to insert himself into this Intercontinental title mix, which I think he should have. I mean, Bob Holly is another underrated performer. Really good stuff. And Bob Holly during this time was hitting his stride with that Hardcore Holly gimmick. He's been moving up the rankings, so good for him. He deserves it. We see all the referees backstage talking near a stairwell, and Earl Hebner saying, go out there, just do your job, call it down the middle like you always do. And then here comes Triple H. And when Earl tries to walk away and all the other refs scatter, Triple H puts his hand against the cement wall and he tries to intimidate him. Triple H is the bully, obviously, in this scene. And it just reminds you of like the classic, like, you know, Triple H is the bully. He's being a jerk. He doesn't say a word to him. He just intimidates him. Backstage, we get Michael Cole in his best role, an interviewer. He is interviewing Crash Holly, asking him if he's feeling the pressure from defending the belt 24/7. Boy, you better know it. Crash Holly first tries to play it off like he's not, but then he starts looking around and he says, Michael, why are you looking at me like that? You need to stop. He's like, the pressure's starting to get to me, man. I'm starting to crack. And then here comes Steve Blackman with a trash can. Wham! Right over the head. You gotta love the hardcore division. Anything can happen at anywhere, anytime. Really fun. So he hits him over the head with the trash can. They end up taking it out to the arena where people can see them wrestle. Blackman is beating him over with broomstick handles, trash can lids, trash cans. They are doing their best to really get into this. And during the match, eventually, Crash Holly finds a way to hit Steve Blackman, and he's trying to get away. But as soon as he goes into the crowd, remember those Baltimore Ravens I was talking about? They end up trying to pin Crash Holly, and they are fighting over the pinfall. Craziness. So Crash Holly ends up taking off. There's no winner in this match. Nothing else really happened with it, but just showing how the hardcore belt being on the line 24/7 made things interesting. We get to the main event. It's for the World Wrestling Federation title. It is a steel cage match. We have The Rock, the People's Champ, versus Shane McMahon. So we have Stephanie McMahon, Triple H, and Vince come out. They're still in their same attire. Triple H's arm is in a sling still. I forgot to mention that before. He supposedly has a separated shoulder throughout this. And Briscoe and Patterson come out in referee shirts. We hear crazy chants from these fans like, Shane's a pussy. That was also what I felt was dumbed down on the network, because I remember people saying this clearly. And once I listened closely, I'm like, oh, I remember they used to call Shane this all the time. So he's getting those chants. Triple H ends up doing something I thought was really unique as a heel. He grabbed one of the sticks from probably the prior hardcore match, and he used it to poke The Rock, hitting him in the sides and putting it through the cage openings, those little small openings to hit Rock with. Rock eventually takes it, breaks it, and he's not going for it. And eventually Pat Patterson gets involved in this match. And Shane's trying to get out, and Pat Patterson low blows The Rock. As soon as The Rock's able to recover, Shane McMahon is stuck on top of the cage. Patterson's trying to push him, wake him up, but Shane is lights out because The Rock was whooping his ass. And he can't move. He's sitting up top there. You could just tell he's like dead. And at one point, they try to push him over, but Shane just falls back with his back on the cage, and he can't move. He's knocked out. So afterwards, Patterson gets down. The Rock starts giving Pat Patterson the hands, and he eats a rock bottom. So then they start to tease Shane winning again, but The Rock grabs him by his hair, then by his shirt, and brings him back inside that ring. And afterwards, we get Triple H slamming the cage door on The Rock's head, and Triple H says, I'm going in. He goes in and starts pounding on The Rock to help his brother-in-law, Shane McMahon, try to capture the WWF title. So Triple H is in there attacking, and fans are chanting for Austin. This is nothing you've heard since the Roman Reigns, John Cena eras. Like, dude, these people are legitimately going nuts for him. You could feel rumblings. People are stomping their feet. Austin, Austin, Austin. People wanted to see him come back, and JR's on commentary like, I don't think we're going to see him again tonight, guys. And afterwards, here comes Earl Hebner. Earl Hebner gets a pop. Now, as Earl Hebner's trying to come down, Jerry Briscoe's on the outside with the ref shirt on, pushes Earl Hebner down. Well, Earl ain't taking it, and he goes and he nails Briscoe and pushes him into the cage. Briscoe goes down like a ton of bricks. And then afterwards, Earl Hebner, when Triple H is trying to get out the cage, Hebner's just trying to get in. He slams the door on Triple H's head because Hebner was tired of Triple H's crap. And then The Rock ends up climbing out of the cage and dropping down while all this chaos is happening and everyone else is beat down. And Vince looks pissed. And Earl Hebner rings the bell, grabs the belt for The Rock, and The Rock retains the World Wrestling Federation title. Dude, when I look at this, the last thing I wrote in here was this show had effing life. People cared about what was going on. And this is the stuff that I miss watching pro wrestling now versus back then. And when someone asks me like, yo, Conrad, when you watched this Raw back, what was the first thing that you thought of? It just reminded me of WWF No Mercy on Nintendo 64. All of the attires, everything happening during that time. They show scenes of all of this stuff happening on No Mercy. So very cool to go back and relive that, guys. But we are going to rewind back, and then we're going to get into your latest news in pro wrestling. What a difference a few years make. It felt so weird just writing out for my notes right now that Monday Night Raw had occurred in the year 2000. Just felt so weird writing that. I'm like, oh man, that was 19 years ago now. Crazy. Where has time gone, man? But we've been talking a lot about some of the news that's been going on. I want to give a shout out to Billy Corgan for the work he did with the NWA Crockett Cup. I thought that was an excellent show that they put on. Really good. I enjoyed the entire tournament. If you guys haven't seen it, spoilers ahead, so you may want to fast forward a little bit. But the entire Crockett Cup tournament was very cool. They had the cup. They had different people there. We had Nikita Koloff. Magnum TA was there. We had the winners becoming the new NWA Tag Team Champions, which was PCO and Brody King. Very dope to see that. You could tell that Billy Corgan is a fan of tag team wrestling. And, dude, Corgan made these tag titles feel very important. So I like the way he handled it. I love the old school approach to the Nick Aldis, Marty Scurll match. They had the arena decked out in the old school NWA colors and the classic Ring of Honor logo on the apron. So very cool stuff. Corgan praised Aldis on the Busted Open radio show. I really respect how Billy Corgan answered these questions. And, hey, I love it, man. Really good stuff. And I can't wait to see what the NWA does next. Let's do a little bit of a rumor killer here next. CM Punk will be doing MMA commentary the same night of AEW's Double or Nothing. Now, Punk is booked to work commentary for the UFC Fight Pass for an event held on May 25th. So Cage Fury Fighting Championships, it's going to be happening in Southern California, and they put out on their Twitter, which is at CFFCMMA. They have CM Punk listed that he will be on the mic there. So the 40-year-old former wrestler is doing commentating for Cage Fury Fighting Championships. The promotions cards air on UFC's streaming service. So it's going to be held in Coachella, California. We'll have to wait and see what happens with it. I know a lot of people were thinking CM Punk was going to be at Double or Nothing. Well, looks like he's not going to be after this. And I'm not horribly, I should say, mad about it. I mean, CM Punk's going to do what he wants to do. And when it's time for him to come back, he'll come back. And if he doesn't, he doesn't. Now, we all know that the WWE's been having their problems, and rumors have it that right now they are adding on time to people's contracts. They've added on time supposedly to Luke Harper's contract. We don't know that for sure, but that's what we're reading about. And I think that sucks for them when they're trying to get the release, but Vince is also doing what's best for his business and holding them. And I don't think that's an excuse. If you're not going to use the guys, I think you should release them. Why hang on to someone that you're not going to use? But I guess why would you let your competition get their hands on someone too? I see both sides of it. I just really want the wrestlers to be happy. And you have way too much talent, Vince, that you know, more talent than you know what to do with. So why hold people like Luke Harper back? Well, the Revival have also become victims of this. I've read that Dash Wilder has had 2 months added on to his contract from a time when he was out injured. And they are trying to hold the Revival back now even longer. What are you guys doing? Like, I get it. So it's smart from their standpoint, right? The business standpoint, but think long term. You are a fan of pro wrestling, right? Why would you want to go work for WWE if they're going to treat you like this later on if you don't become a top star? They're basically telling you if you're not a top star, you don't have anything, you don't get anything. Why stay? There's no reason to be loyal. And I hope all these guys who signed these 5-year deals, I hope all of you guys are reading your contracts. Make sure you know what's going on with everything, because you need to make sure that clauses are in there that you want. The ball's in your court right now, and I think wrestlers need to take advantage of that. That's just my 2 cents on it. I think it sucks that that's happening. Now, with all that happening, I went to sleep last night probably 15 minutes before a video was revealed by the Twitter account at Jon Moxley. His bio says professional wrestler. If you guys don't know, Jon Moxley was the independent name that Dean Ambrose used to go by when he wrestled for like CZW and on the indies. Dean Ambrose is already promoting a comeback. He had a really cool video showing him kind of locked up inside of a prison, and he finds a way to break out. He hops the fence and his arm gets stuck in barbed wire, and he rips the barbed wire off with him and wraps it around his fist. And we see the blood dripping off of it later on. Ambrose putting on a hoodie, showing him boxing, working out in the ring, showing how fast he could actually move in the ring. And Dean Ambrose is still pretty good. Or, excuse me, I got to quit calling him that. I think Dean Ambrose is dead. It's Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley showed a lot of potential in this promo. I thought the promo got a lot of people hyped. And here's the one thing that I was most intrigued by. He used Twitter. Like, this dude never uses social media for anything. He basically says he has 3 tweets. I don't know what number 2 is, but I think his first one was when he did that promo with Mick Foley, and he called Foley out. And this is before the Shield even happened. He was going to debut in a match against Mick Foley, but he got called off for some reason. And I thought that was super dope that he used his Twitter for that. Like, most people don't even subscribe to it because they're like, he never uses it. So pretty cool to see Jon Moxley make his return in a video. Now, there's lots of speculation. What does this video mean? What is the escape from prison? Some say that maybe it was representative of the WWE holding him back. I don't know. There's a lot of tributes and metaphors. People are saying like the big dog was chasing him, and that's maybe supposed to represent Roman Reigns. We also saw something with Viper on the wall, and people were trying to, make something of that. I don't know what all of that means, but what's Ambrose's future next? People are saying that on the wall, you could kind of see, like, how when people are in prison, they count the days and then they use the slash marks. You do 1, 2, 3, 4. The slash through it is 5. He was in there, and they said that could mean something. The dice shown in the background had a 2 and a 5. AEW's pay-per-view is going to happen on May 25th. Maybe that has something to do with it. Who knows? But here's my conclusion on all this. It's freaking a cool time to be a wrestling fan too. As much as we bitch about the WWE and Raw sucks, SmackDown sucks, things are interesting right now in pro wrestling. We've had more options than ever before to watch pro wrestling. The name is Everything Pro Wrestling, and I can't watch everything. That's how crazy it is at this point. We have New Japan. I'm loving some of the stuff they're doing. Ring of Honor. We've got Impact Wrestling. They just put on a pay-per-view. The YouTube channel has been going crazy for it. Over 300 views right now for it. And we are doing tremendous with the amounts of wrestling we have just here in the States even. And I still tell people, go out and support your local independent wrestling places. But wrestling is everywhere, guys. If you are unhappy with a company, go try something else. Why not? Go check out Stardom. If you guys listen to the Brainbusta Radio crew, JPQ, Wilfred, Mags, all these guys talk about different promotions sometimes. Like, go out there and listen to these guys. Shout out to Queen, Josh, Kevin Carroll, Omega Luke. If I forgot you, I apologize. But check these guys out, man, on Brainbusta Radio. Links in the description for that. There are so many different places to watch wrestling, and it's so flipping cool. And we're going to have another one soon with AEW. The kickoff is May 25th. And trust me, guys, I will have a preview and a review for that show. And it's going to be tremendous. Now, before we move on to the next segment here, I do want to give a shout out to my good friends, Everything College Basketball, Josh Burton, Peyton Burton, and Tyler Cook. These guys are putting in work. They are following up with all the recruits during the offseason. They are doing interviews. They are putting in work for their podcast. So if you like college basketball, make sure you guys check out Everything College Basketball. And we're going to move on to our question and answer segment right after this.
What's up, everyone? You're listening to the Everything Pro Wrestling Podcast right here on Brainbusta Radio, where you can also find me, the Queen of NE, on Queen's Court every Wednesday.
I just wanted to give a big birthday shout out to Impact Wrestling Scott Steiner math promo. That promo turns 11 years old today. You could never get tired of listening to that classic. Scott Steiner doing math is hilarious. Absolutely loved him doing the math promo on Joe and Kurt Angle. Freaking hilarious, dude. Never gets old, like I said. We have some questions, though, from the Everything Pro Wrestling Facebook group. If you guys would like to join the group, please make sure you go on to Facebook, type in Everything Pro Wrestling Facebook group. We're at over 300 members right now. You guys are going to click that and then just answer the question of who's your favorite superstar and what's your favorite promotion, and you probably will be accepted in there. I've been getting a lot of bots trying to get in there, so just let me know. If not, reach out to me in a private message and let me know that you sent it, and I will look into that. So let's get into this. First, RJ from Revisionist Booking asks, rebook a main event with the two worst gimmicks of all time. What could I do here? I'm going to go with the Repo Man versus the Gobbledygooker in a gravy on a pole match. Book it. Tell me what you guys think of that one. Let's see here. Eric Brennan says, if you could rebook WCW Bash at the Beach 2000, how that went down, who would you put on the card and in the main event? That is a good question. I think the main event, I would have probably done a triple threat match between Booker T. You know what? Scratch that. Yeah. No. We're going to keep it a triple threat because the other person I was going to put in was gone. Chris Benoit was gone by then. So we'll go with Booker T, Scott Steiner, and Jeff Jarrett in a triple threat match for the World Heavyweight Championship to crown a new champion. That would have been the main event I would have picked. Also, that clip we saw from the Moxley, did you see the hint? I talked about those earlier, previously, and could he have given away his quote Lex Luger moment? Perhaps, but there's so much speculation out there. Would it have really been a surprise? I mean, we're going to pop no matter what when it happens, so I don't think he really gave it away. And what is going to shock the world come May 25th? I think a hell of a product showing that you are serious about becoming a contender in pro wrestling. I think that's what would shock the world on May 25th. So best of luck to AEW. All right. Next question we have here is from Jesus De Leon. Often a mod in my YouTube chat. Appreciate you, Jesus. He says, do you hate people keep believing Ambrose is staying and that this is a work? So basically staying in the WWE. You're inclined to believe what you want to believe, my friend, but I think he's gone. They're not letting him use the name Jon Moxley. He's Dean Ambrose to the WWE universe. He's gone. So I don't think this is a work. But if it is, WWE, this may be up there with the Montreal Screwjob if people believe that's a work too. I am not one of those people that believe in any of that, though. Where is Moxley going to? Wherever the hell he wants, Jesus. Where does CM Punk return? AEW or WWE? CM Punk returns to wherever he can make some good money and be happy. I don't want to speculate on either or for Punk. If I had to guess, I would lean more towards AEW. And what's your thought on WWE adding more time? If you're referring to that 3 hours of SmackDown, don't do it. It's bad news for your company. I know you make more money from doing it, but the shows are horrible for the fans, and you're going to probably have more people tuning out. Yeah. And as I'm saying that, Solomonster just tweeted, yikes, about the SmackDown ratings. So, yeah, we already talked about that on the podcast, but shit. Which ending of a match you would change and why for a match this year? Yeah, the only match I'm going to change is Samoa Joe versus Rey Mysterio at WrestleMania. I still want to see Dominic get choked out, and he has no choice but to tap out. And Samoa Joe's yelling, I'm your poppy, or who's your poppy? It doesn't matter. I want to see Dominic get choked out by Samoa Joe. That may be a silly answer, but I've been wanting to see this moment, and hopefully it still happens. Really, right now, I haven't had anything that I thought was so egregious that it needed to be changed. Nothing too bad yet. Let's see here. Oh, Josh Burton from Everything College Basketball. He puts F, Marry, Kill. Alexa Bliss, Scarlett Bordeaux, Brandy Rhodes. I want to be a gentleman on this show. To my wife, if you ever listen to this, I apologize. We got to play the game here, though. They asked the question. So Josh says, F, Marry, Kill. All three are beautiful ladies, but I am going to... All right, I'm going to F, Scarlett Bordeaux, marry Brandy Rhodes, and I'm going to kill Alexa Bliss. Jesus De Leon says, if the rumors are true, Lio Rush and Killian Dane are back down to NXT. How do you think they should use them? I say you just build them up as the talents they were previously. Killian Dane is a beast and a monster. Let him go on a solo run and show that. And Lio Rush, I would also say he's someone who I could see in that NXT North American Championship division. Let Leo go down there and do what he does best. Let him go and grow and mature. He is still a young man. Maybe you put him down there to have him teach younger wrestlers like, hey, this is what you don't want to do when you come up to the main roster. This is how you are going to make a bigger impact. And maybe he's someone who could eventually become your best teacher. Just a thought. Josh Burton. Again, he says, why do a lot of modern fans think flashy moves and great matches make you over or a draw? Do they not realize three of the four biggest draws in the last 40 years got over with character work, promos, and a look? Hogan, Austin, and The Rock. That's a tough one, Josh. I agree with what you're saying, and I do think that wrestling needs more characters and everything else. But I think in-ring work has a greater importance these days. I don't think anyone's impressed when they see the Great Khali anymore. Back in the old days, someone would have been like, man, that's a really tall dude. He's going to get the world title. It doesn't work that way anymore. They're like, this dude sucks. Like, I'm going to take a leak when he comes on to wrestle. And that's no disrespect to Khali, but if you're in the ring and you can't work, people are going to do that no matter what. So your in-ring work needs to be semi-crisp, even if it's like at the level of Miz. I don't think Miz is a flashy wrestler, but Miz gets the job done. He can wrestle well enough that you're like, okay, cool. Some of these other people, though, they just don't have it. Like, it's not good. And they're there for some other reason. So I do think that both play a factor, and I do think in-ring work matters more today than it used to. Jesus says, who are some indies wrestlers that you feel are underrated right now? I will throw out the name Kevin Bennett right now. I think he is someone who is an absolute amazing talent. He is from Buffalo, New York. He is from my area, so he is someone who I could easily see making it. Who else do we have here on the roster? Brandon Thurston is another person who I think you can put him up there. He's a little bit older, but Brandon Thurston reminds me a lot of a Daniel Bryan. He has a wrestling podcast called WrestleNomics, and he talks about a lot of the money things that are involved in this. Anthony Green is someone else as well who is very underrated. I'm trying to think of who else we could be talking about here. Josh Briggs, he's really good. Anybody else? Yeah, and any of the Buffalo brothers, man, they're really good. So that's who I could think of off the top of my head, without doing some more research and looking into some more people. But those are some guys that I'd like to see get signed to bigger companies eventually. Malik Kelly asks, why do you hate Triple H so much? I need answers. Shout out to Malik. I do a lot of his videos on Saturday on his YouTube channel. We talk about NBA, NFL stuff, lots of pro wrestling as well. He wants to know why I don't like Triple H. My hate for Triple H stems back to him marrying Stephanie, getting a lot of that power, and then us having to sit through some of those horrible Raws during the Reign of Terror. And Triple H just beat a lot of people that he didn't need to beat. Rob Van Dam, Kane, Booker T. I could go on and on and on. That's why sometimes I don't like Malik. Or I'm sorry, sometimes I don't like Triple H. I don't like Malik asking that question, though. He's got me all tongue-tied. Top 5 HBK matches. I can't. You know what? I'm going to save that, Malik, because that could be potentially a video, so I won't use that yet. Favorite Cena match of all time. Jesus, same thing. You'll get to hear that one day, and I do have a favorite Cena match off the top of my head, but I will not answer that just yet. Josh, better in-ring big man, Vader, Bam Bam, or Yokozuna? Ooh, tough. This may shock a lot of people, but I love all three of these guys and their in-ring work, but I'm going to go with Vader as the best big man to me. Vader always stood out. I remember him in WCW just being such a big dude who could do a moonsault. He was really good, and he had a presence about him when he was out there with Harley Race. I loved when he used to have the mask and the shoulder pads and everything else with the smoke coming out of them. Vader was just an all-time badass. And not to say that Bam Bam Bigelow wasn't. I love Bam Bam's work in ECW and Yokozuna, but Vader just stood out a little bit more because of his title reign, and they really made him feel like he is the top guy. Okay. You got to get rid of one. Basically a buy or sell. Liger or Muda, and why? Robert, how could you do this to me? All right. Liger or Muda? You know what, man? All right. Oh, God, that's such a tough one. How dare you do this to me? Tough. I love some of the matches with Muda. Oh, I you know what? I'm going to buy on the Great Muta and sell Jusha Thunder Liger based on their pecking order and how they've always been seen. Muta was a main eventer, and I felt that those matches with Muta and Hogan carry over more to the audience where I came from. So I'm going to pick Muta on this one just based off of his level and where he's seen versus Liger, who was always seen as mid-card, or he come in and work with light heavyweights or your upcoming stars. So Liger, I love you, bro, so don't take it personal. And I'm sad that he's retiring in the beginning of 2020 next year. So if you guys get a chance to see Jusha Thunder Liger, please go see him. Better rapper from Robert. Macho Man, Enzo Amore, R-Truth, Leo Rush, Mo. Who's Mo? I don't know who Mo is. Oh, Mo from Men on a Mission. Or John Cena. And your favorite bar by each. You're killing me with this. Macho Man, best bar is Be a Man Hogan. Enzo Amore's best bar is My Consensual. Even though I think the song about his grandma is probably the best song he did. R-Truth, you know what? I'm a big Get Rowdy fan. Get rowdy. Oh, you didn't know? You better call somebody. It's the D-O-double-G-K, quick, get rowdy. If you guys didn't know, that was R-Truth's first run where they would come out with the freaking Boff clothes, him and Road Dogg. They were weird, but I liked them as a tag team. Don't ask why. Mo, it's got to be the Men on a Mission theme when he used to come out and rap that. And John Cena. So who's the best rapper? You know what, guys? I'm probably going to catch some heat for this. I got to give it to Cena. And maybe because I haven't heard enough of R-Truth, but I liked some of Cena's rhymes and freestyles back in the day. And his theme songs, I know the words to them. They're good. I'm not mad at them. And I liked his raps. John Cena, Thugonomics, man. That's just a great song with his bars in that. An ass-kicking anthem. Like, Cena, that whole verse in the beginning is just dope. So Cena wins that one. So see, I don't hate John Cena. Best tag team right now, Usos or Young Bucks? I'm going to go with the Usos right now. I think the Young Bucks have been out a little too long. So we're going to give the Usos the favor on this one and go with that. But guys, we have done a podcast here for long enough. I'm going to upload this as soon as I'm finished with it. I appreciate anyone who took the time out to check this out. Once again, if you guys go in the description box, we do have the Everything Pro Wrestling merch store. If you want to support Robert and myself, download some of those shirts, or buy one of those shirts. We have the classic Everything Pro Wrestling symbol on there. You guys could put on whatever you want. And also another logo you could put on whatever you want. EPF&W, basically a play off the old ECW logo. We are looking for support through that. So if you guys don't want to just send me money randomly, and I'm not asking you to, I would rather have you get a product or something for it, a shout out, something that needs to be done for this exchange to happen, because you guys deserve it as an awesome pro wrestling community. And anybody who supports me, thank you guys so much. We've got a lot of dope things coming up. I have something very special I am working on. So if you guys are not subscribed to Brainbusta Radio, I have a really dope thing I'm doing tomorrow for you guys. And on Saturday, I will have it uploaded. And it's going to relate back to something I talked about in this show earlier. So make sure you guys check that out. And also, I am going to be a guest on Hubbard Wrestling Weekly Media and Podcast. You can give him a follow on Twitter at @hub_wrestling. On June 7th, I will be doing a WrestleMania 6 retro review with him. So I cannot wait to be on that show. It's going to be awesome. I already put the retweet out there. Just got to show some love. And like I said, Saturday, Brainbusta Radio, big interview coming up. I want to do my best. So make sure that you guys tune in on Saturday to see who it is that I'm interviewing. I think you guys are going to like it. But it's time to get out of here, guys. We are going to rock out with some music on the way out. Thank you for being the best. This is Everything Pro Wrestling. We're out. Peace.
I